Landau, the kosher supervisor or mashgiach, had a perfect taste. I'm going to be breaking eggs to check and make sure that they're kosher. There cannot be any blood in them. Checking for the blood, and the egg is ready to use. Set.
When you're whipping egg whites, the process I use is I always refrigerate my bowl and my whip to keep it as cold as possible, which will add to the egg white not breaking down and whipping a lot easier and smoother. So my process now will be to separate the yolk from the egg white, which will be the next step. When you do this at home, it's pretty much the same process. You can reach in and pull the egg yolk out, or you may use the shells. When you do an egg white, a lot of people will go back and forth like this to pull the yolk out. And there you would have your white there, doing it that way. That's one way of doing it. If the egg is cold, which is a key, the white should separate extremely easy. And of course the yolks can be used for various other things, for a dressing. If you want to make your own mayonnaise or save it for baking, it requires an egg yolk. Okay, the bowl is cold and the whites are now cold. As far as using a whisk, depending on what you have at home, it's pretty much, to me, has always been a comfort. I always tend to whip to the right because I find it comfortable. Some people whip towards themselves. Whatever your comfort zone is, there's no actual proper way. And as long as your bowl is cold, and I find that's a big, big key. What I usually do with the whites is whip them till they start to froth, especially in a bakery where you're going to make either maybe a little chiffon. So what I'll do is whip them until they start to really froth. I'll add a little bit of, we are doing Passover. We're pretty limited as to products we can use. We're using granulated sugar, white granulated sugar. The non-basic or regular kosher confectionery sugar is also acceptable, depending on whatever recipe you're going with. And I do find, I stress one more time, preferably you have a stainless steel or metal bowl, as opposed to plastic. If you have to have plastic, that's fine. But where the metal is down to 35, 40 degrees, as you can see, when you're going by hand, they tend to whip a lot quicker, froth a lot quicker. So we can make this a little sweeter. If you want to use this, whether we want to fold this in for a sponge cake, or whether we want to even flavor it into a chiffon, whatever. A lot of the whites you can use standard for a lot of different recipes. But this is what I recommend if you're going to do a sponge cake. But of course, a lot of people at home tend to use a mixer. And if you do have a mixer, like a KitchenAid, I strongly suggest refrigerate your bowl and your pat and your whip, and it'll be done in half the amount of time. But if we want to be a little more creative and see if we can compete with the chefs we do see on TV, we can always go back to the original way to do it, which does work. And then you pretty much have it. You pretty much, the whites that you can fold into a sponge cake. Or if you're doing a chiffon, I recommend a little more sugar, make it a little sweeter and heavier, which will bake better. It will actually spread better if you're going to flavor, because at this point, I would flavor it if I was going to do a topping with a chiffon, I would flavor this at this point. And then pretty much you have your egg white.